She said just one dance, but her voice had that kind of pause that meant she already knew one wouldn't be enough. The living room lights were dimmer than they should have been, maybe because someone forgot to change the bulb, or maybe because it made everything feel easier to hide in. Music hummed low from a half-forgotten playlist. A slow song, older than both of us, filling the corners of a quiet house that smelled faintly of wine and rain on pavement. She stood near the window, barefoot, holding her glass by the stem, swirling what was left. Her name, Elena, fit her too well. Soft vowels, calm on the surface, something stirring underneath. I'd known her since I was a kid, the family friend, my mother's old college roommate who came by for dinners, birthdays, small talk. But that night, she wasn't Elena the family friend. She was a woman standing too close, her hair falling loose, the kind of woman who made silence feel loud. "You look uncomfortable," she said, smiling slightly. "I'm not," I lied. She tilted her head, watching me the way people do when they already know they've got you cornered, not out of cruelty, but curiosity, like she wanted to see how long I'd hold still. Her dress brushed the floor when she moved, navy blue, thin straps, light catching against her skin. I don't remember who turned the music up. I just remember her setting down the glass, holding out her hand, and saying it again, "One dance." I took it before I could think. Her fingers were warm, smaller than I expected, the kind of touch that makes you forget where your own hand should go. I rested my other hand against her back, careful, too careful. She noticed. "You can hold me," she said, voice soft, teasing but not unkind. "I don't break easily." So I did. We started to move, slow, half offbeat. The song wasn't romantic, not really. But it didn't matter. The sound was just something to fill the space between heartbeats. I could feel her breathing, steady at first, then not so much. "You've grown up," she murmured. I laughed quietly, though it came out wrong. "You sound surprised." "I am," she said. Then, after a pause, "It doesn't suit you." "What doesn't?" "Pretending you're not nervous." I didn't answer. She looked up at me then, not smiling, not testing. Just there, present. And suddenly, every inch of air between us felt charged, as if saying anything more might break something fragile we hadn't named yet. The rain outside tapped against the window. The house creaked. The song kept playing, slower now, like it understood what was happening. Her perfume, faint citrus, a little warmth of skin, hit me every time she shifted, and then she missed a step. My arm caught her waist before she stumbled, and she laughed, low, real, the kind that vibrates more than it sounds. For a second, she didn't pull away. Her hand stayed on my chest, her fingers pressed lightly against the rhythm of my heart. I felt her hesitate, a small inhale, a flicker of thought crossing her face. And then she said, barely above a whisper, "See? Not so uncomfortable now." I could have said something. Should have. But instead I just looked at her, the line of her collarbone, the faint color in her cheeks, the question in her eyes. And right before I found the courage to answer, the door opened behind us. A voice called her name. We both froze, still close enough that I could feel her breath on my neck, her pulse under my palm. She stepped back first, too quickly. The song ended. The air between us I didn't sleep much. Not because of what happened, or didn't, but because every time I shut my eyes, I could still feel the space where she'd been. Elena made coffee early. I heard the soft clink of the spoon before I saw her, that small, domestic rhythm of someone trying to stay busy. The house was still, the kind of quiet that follows an almost cross line. When I walked in, she was at the counter, robe tied loose, hair still damp from the shower. She didn't look at me right away. "Morning," she said, voice even. "Hey," I answered. My throat felt dry. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," she said, pouring coffee into 2 mugs, though she didn't ask if I wanted one. She just pushed one across the counter, her fingers brushing mine. A small, careless touch, but not careless enough. Neither of us spoke for a while. The air smelled like rain and bitter roast. Finally, she said, "Your mother used to bring you here after your father left. You'd sit on that couch, watching cartoons while we pretended everything was fine." It caught me off guard, the sudden honesty. I looked at her. Her gaze stayed on the window. "I didn't know you remembered that," I said. I remember more than I should. She took a slow sip. Maybe that's my problem. Something in her tone, tired, soft, made me realize that underneath all her poise, she carried her own kind of quiet loneliness. Maybe that's why she'd reached for me last night. Not to play with fire, but to feel something warm again. I wanted to say something that would make it less complicated, but all I could manage was, "You seem different today." She smiled faintly. That's one way to say awkward. I smiled back, though it faded as soon as I said, "About last night," she cut me off gently. "Nothing happened." "I know, but something almost did." Her voice was steady, but her hand gripped the coffee mug too tightly. "And it can't. You know that, right? Because of the age thing? Because of everything," she said. "You're 24. You've got your whole life ahead of you. I've already made my mistakes." I didn't respond. I just watched her, the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the way her eyes flicked to me and away again. When she moved to rinse her cup, I reached over and stopped her hand. Not hard, just enough that she froze. Her skin was warm beneath my fingers. "Elena," I said quietly. She didn't pull back. Not at first. The sound of the running water filled the silence between us. Then, almost in a whisper, she said, "Don't make this harder." But her hand didn't move. The water kept running, steam rising between us like a veil. I could see the pulse in her neck, quick and unsteady. For a moment, neither of us breathed right. Then she finally pulled away, not with anger, but something that looked too much like fear. "Finish your coffee," she said, turning her back to me. I did, slowly, watching the way her shoulders rose and fell, like she was trying to steady herself. And when I set the mug down to leave, she looked over her shoulder, just once, and said softly, "Next time, maybe don't dance so close." But her eyes said something entirely different. The next few days, we circled each other like people pretending not to know the rules they'd already broken. Elena kept herself busy, dishes that didn't need washing, emails that didn't need answering. I found excuses to stay around longer than I should. Fixing the gutter, carrying groceries. Each time, she thanked me with a polite smile that never reached her eyes. By the fourth evening, the storm outside had turned the air heavy. The power flickered once, then steadied. I found her in the living room, candles lit on a coffee table, a half-finished glass of red beside her. "You're still here," she said, not surprised. "Guess I am. Your mom said you'd already gone home." I was going to. The silence that followed said what neither of us would. I sat down across from her, maybe too close. The flickering light blurred the edges of everything. Her bare feet tucked beneath her, the curve of her wrist resting against the sofa, the glint of her ring she no longer wore. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she said quietly. "Like what?" "Like you want to say something you'll regret." I wanted to tell her I already regretted not saying it. Instead, I shrugged. "It's just a look." Her lips curved, a small, knowing smile that faltered when my knee brushed hers. Neither of us moved away. The clock ticked. The rain softened. Somewhere, her phone buzzed on the counter, lighting up the room for a second. She didn't reach for it. "You should check that," I said. "It's no one important." The way she said it, low, final, made the air tighten. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, trying to act casual. "You ever think about what people would say?" She looked at me, eyes steady. "Constantly. And you still let me stay?" "Maybe I wanted to see if you'd leave on your own." I almost laughed, but it came out rough. Guess I failed that test. Her hand rested near mine on the couch, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating between our fingers. I didn't touch her. "Not yet." "Don't," she whispered, eyes dropping to my mouth. "I wasn't going to." "Yes, you were." The lights flickered again, a quick, breathless second of darkness. And then, the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Tires on wet gravel. We froze. She stood too quickly. That's probably your mother. She wasn't supposed to come tonight." Elena's hand went to her hair, smoothing nothing. She looked suddenly younger, uncertain. "Then who?" The front door latch rattled. She grabbed my wrist and pulled me toward the kitchen, whispering, "Go out the back." I hesitated too long. Her face was inches from mine, eyes wide in the candlelight. We both stopped breathing. Her hand was still around my wrist. My other hand found her waist, instinct before thought. For a heartbeat, the world held still. Thunder far away, rain tapping the windows, her breath trembling against my chin. We didn't kiss, but we didn't move apart either. The door opened. A voice called out, male familiar. Elena, you home? Her fingers tightened once before she let go. Go, she mouthed. I did. Out the back door, into the rain. Heart pounding, her warmth still ghosting down my arm that I didn't see her for 3 days. No texts, no calls, just silence, the kind that starts to sound like an answer you didn't want. Then, on the 4th night, she showed up at my door. It was late, too late for it to be casual. She stood there in a coat that wasn't buttoned, rain in her hair, that same guarded look she wore when she wanted to say one thing, but knew she shouldn't. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside. She passed by me without meeting my eyes. The air between us felt charged again, like static right before a storm breaks. She stopped in the middle of the living room, arms folded but not for warmth. You can't keep showing up in my head, she said quietly. It's not fair. I didn't do anything, I said. You don't have to. I moved closer, not enough to touch, but enough that her breath caught. You want me to leave you alone? She laughed once, without humor. That's the problem. I don't. Her hands trembled, barely noticeable. I wanted to take them, steady them, but I didn't. Elena, I said, softer this time. If this is about the other night, it's about every night since then, she cut in. It's about not sleeping. It's about wondering what you're thinking when you look at me like that. Like what? Like you already know what would happen if I stopped pretending. For a second, I forgot to breathe. She finally looked up, and the wall she'd kept between us cracked just enough. You make me feel ridiculous, she said. I'm twice your age. I should know better. You do, I said. That's what makes it worse. The space between us vanished before I realized I'd moved. Her perfume, that faint trace of citrus and skin, hit me like déjà vu. I reached up, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. She didn't flinch. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. My hand stayed against her cheek, thumb tracing the faintest tremor there. You're shaking, I said. So are you. The rain outside deepened, filling the silence. Her eyes searched mine, not for permission, but for the strength to stop. I tried, she whispered. I really did. Try again, I said, but it came out closer than it should have, voice rough, low against her ear. Her hands found my chest, as if to push me away, but they didn't. They just stayed there, palms flat, feeling the uneven rhythm underneath. For a long second, the world shrank to the sound of our breathing, uneven, shared. Her forehead brushed mine, the smallest touch, but it felt like crossing a line. I can't, she started, then stopped. I could feel her lips hover near mine, a ghost of warmth, hesitation trembling between us. And then, a phone rang. Sharp, sudden, real. She stepped back as if burned, one hand pressed her mouth. The sound kept ringing, cutting through the moment like light through fog. When she finally answered, her voice was steady again, too steady. Yes, she said. He's here. Her eyes met mine as she said it, and whatever came next was already too late to take back. The phone call changed everything, though neither of us said it out loud. When she hung up, she didn't move for a long time. Just stood there, one hand still holding the phone, her other pressed against her ribs like she was keeping something from spilling out. Who was it? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Your mother, she said finally, voice thin. She knows you're here. I frowned. So what? I'm an adult, not... She asked if I'd seen you. She interrupted, looking down. I said yes. And then she said she knew. Knew what? That something's different. The words hung there like smoke. She doesn't, she does, Elena whispered. She always could read me better than I wanted her to. I took a step closer. She stepped back until the back of her knees hit the couch. Her hands gripped the edge like she needed to hold herself in place. Elena, nothing's happened. Don't say that, she said sharply. Don't make it sound small. You think this is nothing? Her eyes flashed. Anger, fear, something tangled between them. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? I didn't know how to answer. The rain outside had stopped, but the house still felt damp, the kind of quiet that followed confession. She turned away, pacing once. You think this is just tension? Curiosity? You don't know what you're doing. Then tell me, I said, because I'm not the only one standing here wanting something I shouldn't. That stopped her. She looked over her shoulder, the candlelight flickering across her face. You shouldn't say that. Then stop me. She froze, the kind of stillness that isn't calm but cornered. I moved toward her slowly, not to trap her, just to make her look at me. When she finally did, her eyes were wet, though she hadn't cried. There's something I didn't tell you, she said. About your mother. The air went colder. What about her? She asked me to keep an eye on you. We came back from school. Said you seemed lost. I blinked. So that's how this started. Her voice broke a little. Wasn't supposed to be anything. I just started caring. She looked down, silent. It felt like a betrayal and something deeper at the same time, like realizing the reason she'd been near me was the same reason I couldn't stay away. So all this, I said quieter now, started because my mom thought I needed looking after. And I thought I could handle it, she said. Until I couldn't. I stepped closer again, close enough to see the tremor in her hands. And now it's not about her anymore. She brushed past me, heading toward the door, but stopped when my hand caught her wrist. Her pulse jumped beneath my fingers. Elena, I said, my voice low. If you walk out now, we both know this doesn't end. She didn't turn around. I know, she whispered. Then, slowly, she turned her hand in mine, fingers intertwining, just once deliberate final. I'll see you tomorrow, she said. But the way she said it sounded less like a promise and more like surrender. She didn't come the next day. Or the day after. I told myself it was better that way, distance as damage control, but I kept checking my phone anyway. By the third evening, I stopped pretending I wasn't waiting. It was near dusk when I finally saw her again. She was outside, standing by her car in the soft amber light. Coat hanging open, eyes tired but steady. The kind of look people wear when they've already made a decision and are hoping you won't make it harder. I shouldn't be here, she said when I stepped outside. Then why are you? Her breath left her like an admission. Because I didn't know how else to end it. We were close enough to see the faint tremor in each other's hands. I wanted to reach for her, but the weight of everything that had built between us, the nights, the silence, the almosts, sat heavy between our bodies. In what? I asked. We haven't even exactly. She looked down, shaking her head slightly. If we start something now, it won't stop where it should. The wind tugged at her hair. I caught a strand before it blew across her face, tucking it behind her ear. My fingers brushed her skin, and that was all it took. The air changed like the world tilted closer to something dangerous and real. Elena, I said quietly, you keep talking like it's wrong, but you keep coming back. Her eyes lifted to mine. You think I don't know what that means? Then tell me what you want. She swallowed hard, the sound barely audible. I want you to stop looking at me like that. I can't. She laughed softly, the kind that breaks instead of lightens. You're too young to know how much that matters. Maybe, I said, or maybe I just know what I want when it's right in front of me. Her hands came up then, pressing flat against my chest like before, but this time she didn't pull away. You don't understand, she whispered. This isn't just about age. It's about everything else I've already lost. I'm not here to take anything from you. Her voice cracked. You already have. And that was the moment, the one where every reason to stop became another reason not to. The air between us grew thin, our breaths mixing, words falling away. Her forehead touched mine, just barely. I could feel the small tremor in her lips when she whispered, If I kiss you, I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself. Then don't forgive yourself, I said. The silence stretched. Her hands slipped from my chest to my shoulders, hesitated, and then, instead of closing the distance, she stepped back. Her eyes were wet, but clear now. No, she said softly. You deserve someone who isn't already halfway gone. And just like that, the air broke. She turned and walked toward the car without looking back. I didn't follow. For once, the quiet between us didn't feel unfinished, just honest. Because we finally understood what the other wanted, and why neither of us could have it. A month passed before I saw her again. Long enough for the air to clear, but not enough to forget the weight of what didn't happen. It was a late afternoon in early spring, the kind of day that smelled like thawing ground and second chances. I was walking back from the store when I saw her outside the cafe, sitting alone with a book she wasn't really reading. For a moment, I almost kept walking. Some part of me thought the silence between us had already said everything. But she looked up, as if she'd felt it, that quiet gravity that never really went away, and smiled. Small, careful, real. "Hey," I said. "Hey," she echoed, closing her book. "You look older." I laughed a little. "It's been a month. A long month." I nodded. "You mind if I—" She gestured to the seat across from her. "You never needed permission." We sat there, the sounds of people and traffic filling the spaces our words didn't. She looked different, lighter somehow. Maybe I did too. The tension that used to hang between us had softened into something quieter, something that didn't ache to be solved. "I thought about calling," she said after a while. "I thought about you calling," I said. That earned me the faintest smile. "And now I'm here." She looked down at her hands, fingers tracing the edge of her cup. Then she reached across the table, slow, deliberate, and rested her hand on mine. Her touch wasn't a question anymore. It was an answer. "I didn't stop caring," she said. "I didn't want you to." We stayed like that. No rush, no secrets left to protect. Just her hand, warm against mine, the city moving around us like background noise. "I was scared," she admitted quietly, "that I'd ruin you somehow, that I'd ruin myself again." "You didn't," I said. "If anything, you made me see what it means to want something and still do the right thing." She laughed softly. "That's very mature of you. Don't sound so surprised." Her thumb brushed over my knuckles, a small, unconscious motion that said more than words ever could. The kind of gesture that lives in muscle memory. "Maybe timing was never the point," she said. "Maybe this is—" I nodded. "This feels enough." She exhaled slowly, then stood. I stood too. We were close again, close enough to remember, close enough not to need more. Then she reached up and kissed me. Not the kiss we almost had, not the kind that asks for more, but the kind that says thank you. When she pulled back, she smiled. "Take care of yourself." "You too." And as she turned to leave, I caught her hand one last time, not to stop her, just to feel it, warm and alive and real. Some endings don't break, they settle. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?